Hey guys, how's it going? This is the Bald Metal Nerd coming at you. Now in this video, I am going to do a product unboxing and comprehensive review of the Audioengine D1 digital analog converter. This is the box that it arrives in, the shipping box. You know, on the outside of it, it just says, you know, Audioengine D1, premium 24-bit DAC. You know, as you can tell, I've already opened the box, but I'll be getting to that in a second. So, there you go. That is the shipping box it arrives in. So let's go ahead and pull out, come on, the inner box, which I assume if they were to ever sell this in retail, this is what you would see. So, this basically just says yada 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 about the device, talks about it a little bit, you know, trying to sell you on it on the box. This is pretty much, you know, what you get, at least, viewing the box. So, open her up. You've got some inner foam there. Throw that to the side. We've got, this is the, you know, like a product catalog, a paper catalog for Audioengine's other products. It's real nice, nice and glossy, pretty nice. Makes you want to buy more Audioengine's products. Anyway, this here is the setup guide. Now, there's a note in here. Basically, it says this thing is, you know, it shows you how to hook it up and everything. And in here, it says, here we go. See where it says break-in period? It says your DAC will sound great out of the box and will get better over time. However, give it 40 to 50 hours of break-in time before doing any critical listening. That's going to be, you know, the final part of this review, but I'm going to talk about, before I do that, I'm going to talk about the, how it sounds out of the box. So I will, you know, do a compare and contrast, see if I can tell a difference or not. So, anyway, there's that. Next up, we've got the interior of the box, and what's in there. We have got the 2-foot USB cable it comes with, useful for hooking up to a laptop. Not really long enough for a desktop, but of course you can use an extension or whatever. Here we've got the unit itself packaged in there, and lastly, we've got the carrying pouch. And I guess if you really want to travel with this thing, you can throw it in here. I probably won't be traveling with this. I'm essentially mostly going to use it with my desktop here at home, but just in case you want to, you can wiggle it into the pouch. There, see, fits just fine, along with the USB cable. And there you go. Fits okay. So, there we go. Now, guys, I have to confess something. I've listened to this a little bit already. I actually hooked it up to a laptop, a Dell Latitude D620, which isn't known for having a great internal sound card, and it's running the Windows 10 preview. And basically, I hooked it up for two reasons. One, I hooked it up to see if this would work in Windows 10, and it does at least work in the preview, the current preview build of Windows 10. It does work. Now, will it work in the final version? If it works in the preview version, I'd say there's a 99.99% chance it's going to work in the final version of Windows 10 without a hitch. So that's really good news, since, you know, Windows 10 is coming out in just a few months. So that's awesome. But anyway, and I just wanted to see, you know, what my initial impressions of it were out of the box. Basically, my initial impressions of it compared to the built-in DAC straight out of the box, no break-in period whatsoever, was, I thought that basically this compared to, because I listened on a pair of headphones, obviously, I thought that the sound coming out of this was just a little bit more than what came out of the built-in sound. Now let me explain what I mean by that. It had more clarity, more punch. It was just a cleaner sound. It just sounded somewhat nicer. Now, it wasn't like opening the gates of heaven compared to being down in the mucks with the built-in because built-in, it did not sound bad. It sounded fine. I mean, if I hadn't listened to this, I wouldn't have known, you know, I was missing anything. It's not like the built-in was like awful, but this was an upgrade. It wasn't like, it wasn't huge, but it was an upgrade. So even out of the box, this has a really nice sound. I don't know how it's going to sound, you know, after it's broken in. I can't wait to hear it. If it does get better, I'm really looking forward to see how this thing sounds after the break-in period. But anyway, let's go ahead and just go over the unit a little bit. Obviously, you got your volume control there. You got your on-off button. You've got the headphone jack. And on the back, you've got your USB input / power. You got your optical input for like CD players or TVs or whatever other devices you want to hook up to it. And, of course, you have your analog outputs for hooking it up to a receiver or stereo. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and hook this thing up, shall we? So, what I did, I was actually really looking forward to getting this, so I went ahead and got the cables ready to go for it on my desk because I didn't feel like crawling around the day I got it. So let's go ahead and plug everything in, shall we? Go ahead and take the cover off for the toss link. Come on. No, that doesn't want to come off. There we go. Got her off. Anyway, so we'll just plug all of the devices in. We'll start with, let's make sure the toss link doesn't have any dust on it. Oh, we got a hair dust there. There we go. Dust free. So yeah, I got it backward, upside down there. Yeah, something. Let's try it the other way. There we go. Okay. Analog outputs. There we go. Okay. Beautiful. And now it's detecting the device there. And literally, this is how easy it is. You just plug it into your PC and it automatically installs the drivers. There's no... See? It's finding it right there. I know you can't really read that on the screen. And right now it's just downloading the drivers all on its own. It shouldn't take very long. It's finding the drivers. It's taking a minute. But it'll get there. Actually, guys, let me go ahead and pause right here real quick after... No. Okay, guys, I actually got this thing making noise on my computer now, as you can see. It just took me switching the output device to the right device to get it to work. I didn't have to do anything, download any drivers or anything for it to just work in Windows. It, you know... downloaded everything all on its own. I, of course, am running Windows 7 here. It runs just fine. Now, when you go ahead and get this installed, I recommend, now, this is not, you don't have to do this, but I like to set the sample rate the highest you can get. So, you do that by going into Control Panel, choose your device there, right click, go to Properties, and go to your Advanced. And right now it's a 16-bit 44.1 kilohertz. I'm going to go ahead and bump that up to 24-bit 96 kilohertz just for fun. Go ahead and hit the test button. Probably make a noise. As you can see, it works. So there you go. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead... Oh, wanted to show off a few other things before I did pause. One thing that nobody's quite sure about on this thing is it says you can't have the TOS link and USB hooked up at the same time and still have it. Basically, if the TOS link is hooked up supposedly it won't make noise out of USB. Well, as you can see, I have the Toslink hooked up, but the Toslink is actually hooked up to a CD player that is currently turned off, okay? And since my CD player is turned off, it's not actively sending a signal through the Toslink, so I am able to get sound from the USB, you know, out of this thing, which is great, because I would really hate if I wanted to use my CD player with this DAC to have to, you know, unplug and replug the Toslink. I mean, I know if I turn off, if I turn on my CD player, it won't get sound from the USB anymore, which is fine, because if I'm listening to my CD player, I don't really care if I have computer audio working or not. So, just a nice thing to know. That's a question that's been on this thing, because even in the manual it says the Toslink device will be given priority. But if the Toslink device is turned off, USB does work without, you know, even with it plugged in. So that's good to know. Anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap up this part of the video. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go ahead and pause right here. And I'm going to do some A and B comparisons out of the box, you know, still before the break-in period. And then I will, you know, I'll give my initial impressions before the break-in period is completed. And then I will wrap up the video with the final part will be, of course, you know, after the break-in period is completed. So that's it. I'm going to pause right here. I'll be right back with my A-B comparisons out of the box. Okay guys, here's part 2 of my review where I'm going to talk about my impressions of this thing before the full break-in period has happened. Basically what I've managed to do here, as you can see, I got it all hooked up. We got the input there for the CD player input / power for the computer. We got the outputs to my receiver, and we got the headphone plugged in here, which is the headphones I tested with the Harman Kardon CLs. And I just want to say that I'm going to start off with the most mind-blowing difference, and that was the headphone amp part of this. The signal that this produced compared to either my receiver or my CD player over headphones, this was a huge dramatic improvement. It was much cleaner, much clearer. I mean, it was almost like night and day. This sounded a lot better than either my receiver or my CD player headphone outputs did. It was a million times better. That, I mean, it just blew me away with how much better this was. Now, as far as comparing the DAC, the built-in onboard, you know, Realtek that comes on most motherboards that's in my desktop, and this on the output to the receiver, it was really tough to do A/B testing on that because of the fact that I'm still on Windows 7 on this desktop, and the handoff of audio devices was not, you know, super smooth. So I just ended up doing a lot of listening to this through my receiver and speakers with the PC, and I can say that the sound that this produces is extremely clean, clear, crisp, all those wonderful terms. Now, I was able to do a much easier A/B comparison between this and my CD player, okay? And I had basically, you know, because obviously it's feeding the digital signal from my CD player into this, and it's outputting an analog signal into the receiver, and I have my analog out on my CD player on a different output, so I was able to switch between basically the CD player and this, you know, A/B method. And as far as which sounded better, this actually sounded slightly better than the DAC built into my CD player, which really impressed me, because I thought before my CD player had a really sweet sounding DAC, but this actually topped it. It wasn't a huge difference. It wasn't like, it was nowhere near as dramatic as the difference with the headphones. But again, just like I said in the first part of this video, it was just slightly more clear, slightly more detailed. Just, and you could just tell it was slightly better. It wasn't, again, not night and day, but there was definitely a difference. And this is, you know, all achieved before the, you know, the manual recommends giving it 50 hours before you do critical listening. So this is still, you know, a little bit of my out-of-the-box impressions. So far, I have a really positive view of this device. It's probably pretty obvious from the way I'm putting things. So that's pretty much going to be this part of it. I'm going to come back where I talk about I'm going to let this thing, I'm going to continually play music in it over the next couple of days to make sure it, you know, gets fully broken in. And after that, I'll do the final part of the video where I talk about how it sounds after the break-in period is complete and give my final recommendation on it. So I will be right back, guys, with the final part of the video. Okay, guys, I ran the D1 through its recommended 40 to 50 hours of burn-in, and it's time for my final thoughts on this device. I have to say the burn-in didn't change the sound very much, as far as I can tell. It didn't sound, you know, really... If there was a difference before versus after the burn-in, I can't tell it. I only did it because it was in the manual, but as far as the sound goes, it's no better, it's no worse. It's, you know, more or less the same as far as I can tell to my untrained ears. So basically, I think that means it sounds exceedingly great. It's definitely an audible improvement to, you know, other types of audio. I mean, like I said, it was a very audible improvement even in my CD player. I wasn't able to properly A/B it with my desktop, unfortunately, and also it's developed a kind of a nasty habit. If I turn on my CD player with this thing turned on, you know, with my computer turned on, I have to reboot my darn computer to get it, you know, to play through the USB again, which is a real pain in the butt. Now, I'm not blaming the unit because I actually hooked it up to my laptop as well and did not have the same problem hooked up to my laptop. So I don't think it's the unit's fault. It's just, who the hell knows? With computers, there's a million variables. You know, now there's now this thing is advertised as working with Mac and PC. Now, I don't have a Mac, so but I know it would work with Mac. And also, just in case you're wondering, I did not personally test this, but I did read that this is functional under Linux as well. So for any Linux users out there, this should work in Linux as well. So basically, my final thoughts on this is, since it is an audible improvement, it's not going to change your world, but it will make your sound cleaner, crisper, just better and more. It's not, you know, it's not like going from AM radio to CD, but it is an audible improvement. It gives you more clarity, more punch. It just makes your sound cleaner. It's an upgrade. It is an audible upgrade. So, okay guys, this is just a bit of an addendum to the rest of the review. Since I actually started filming this whole thing maybe almost about a month ago, I just never got a chance to upload it to YouTube, which I guess was a blessing in disguise because I was able to, you know, learn more about the unit in the intervening month. Now, in that amount of time, I actually went ahead. I was having issues with the PC that I had before, and I just got really frustrated. So I decided to build myself another PC. So I did. Long story short, I built myself another PC, but that. So what I was able to do then is I was able to more accurately A/B this with the built-in DAC to the versus the one built into the PC. And I have, in the one that I built, I have an Asus motherboard with a fairly decent onboard audio, and it sounds, you know, decent. the onboard, but let me tell you something. This was a fairly audible improvement over what was on the onboard audio. More musical, more defined, yada yada yada. This definitely sounds better than the built-in audio on the motherboard, no doubt about it. Now, the other part that I want to talk about is this has actually developed some issues over the past month with the USB working properly, not working properly. There's been some ups and downs with it, but I'm not really too worried about it because I emailed Audioengine support about this, and they've given me some very fantastic customer service. Actually, they're going to be. They've actually already sent me in the mail replacement unit for this. I haven't gotten it yet, but it's on the way. So, you know, no complaints. I mean, Audioengine's really stepping up, sending me a new unit. And this thing does still technically work. I can get it to work. It's not like it's not working, so it's not the end of the world. I'll get the new unit. I'll put this one back in the box. They're giving me a prepaid shipping label to send it back to them. That'll be the end. So, you know, even though I'm having some issues with it, it still does not deter me from recommending this thing. Do I recommend you buy this thing? Absolutely. If you can afford $170 and you want better sound, this is an absolute must-have. It definitely makes everything sound better. I have no reservations whatsoever recommending this. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed what you see, you know, please thumbs up, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thanks for watching. I will catch you guys next time.